Good morning, afternoon, and evening, everybody. My name is MiAh the King, and my wife asked me to go get 6 cans of Sprite from the grocery store. I realized when I got home that I had picked 7 up. Now then, today we're taking a look at a game just released on Steam called War Hospital, developed by Brave Lamb Studio SA and published by Bacon. Sorry, I meant Naken, or Naken, or however you pronounce that. Now, this game is a management simulation game about controlling a war hospital during World War I, released not in early access and selling for $30 American. So, what is this game, you might be wondering? Well, it's pretty much just a war hospital game. I mean, a simulation game. Almost like a city builder, except you don't really build a city or any buildings. You simulate running a triage station during World War I, and that's pretty much the entire gist of it. You play as a new commander arriving and needing to save as many lives as you can and getting them back into the fight. I especially like the idea of this game, as well as the message given at the beginning, which talks about all the brave men and women who busted their asses and risked their lives to save lives during the war rather than those who took them. It gives them some recognition and honor, which I really respect. However, now we're going to get into the rest of this review, so I hope you stay tuned. As always, we'll go into the good and the bad, followed by my final thoughts, and up first is the good. So the first positive that I really want to make mention of is the unique originality of this game. There aren't a lot of games like this one. Most people and developers are too scared to do something different, yet whenever somebody does do something different, it almost always turns into something big. I mean, look at PUBG. When it first released, it was pretty much the first of its kind, really drawing to light the whole Battle Royale element, and it became huge as well as inspired many others. Look at Slime Rancher when it first released. It chose to do something completely different from anybody else. Developers need to learn that they don't have to make the same game over and over again. Give us something new, and this game does that, which I have to applaud. The next positive is the look and feel of the game. You know what I mean, right? Like when I say a game feels good? Well, the look and feel of this game are pretty decent. The graphics give you a good attention to detail, but at the same time they have that gritty, dirty, it's 1917 World War I kind of feel, which is good for the game as for the feel. Well, that's next. See, the next positive is the user interface and the controls, right? That's the feel, basically. They're responsive, they make sense, they're easy to understand and navigate, and overall they make the gameplay flow much smoother and make the entire gameplay component feel exactly the way you would want it to while you're playing. And with the UI, the user interface, being nice to look at and easy to understand and navigate, it makes the gameplay more fun since you're not so confused and fumbling about and wondering what you're supposed to do or click on. The next thing that I want to talk about is the sound effects, music, and voice acting. Yes, this game has voice acting. So the voice acting itself, it's decent enough. Some characters do a really good job, and others, well, they sound kind of like robots or just people who really didn't want to be here, and you can hear it in their voice. But still, for the most part, it's fine. The music is really good, it blends into the background easily enough, it's well done, it sounds good, and it's not distracting, but it also works well at setting the mood for the rest of the gameplay, which is something for this kind of game you definitely want. And the sound effects are on point, for the most part. When you're in camp and listening to things happening here and there, it sounds good, but there is one point that is a bit lacking in the quality with its sound effects, and I'll get into that later because I don't want to spoil anything, but overall though, the sound quality here is not bad. And the last thing that I want to talk about is the gameplay. It's in the good and the bad, so be prepared for that, but basically here's the positives that I gotta say about the gameplay. It's got some unique ideas for sure. Trying to simulate managing a war hospital is pretty cool, and for the most part they really give you what you're expecting. For instance, you've got a surgery building, a medical response building, a rehabilitation building, a canteen, living quarters, cemetery, train station for importing goods, and my favorite part, the trenches. Now that's not everything, that's just everything I can think of right now. But the trenches, right? You actually have trenches set up that you can go to and look at. Now, I love the idea of this. It adds depth to the gameplay of what it is you're doing, like what you're looking at here. You know, you're not just healing people and sending them off screen to get killed again. You actually send them to the trenches and then can see them there. Like, you can see people being escorted off the trenches and into your war hospital. Like, it's a really cool aspect that I wasn't expecting to see here, and it adds, I mean, it really does add a whole new level of immersion here, and I like that. Basically, the gameplay works like this. You'll have a bunch of resources and personnel at your disposal. Make sure that they're adequately assigned, and then when patients arrive, you need to determine if they're beyond saving or not. If not, then you assign surgeons to heal them, and then they get sent to a rehab station where nurses will help them recover, and at that point you then decide if they go back to the front lines, if they go to HQ, or if they are relieved from service. All options provide some form of benefit and negative to you, so you'll have to decide appropriately what it is that you really need the most. And sending them back to the front line means giving you good overall strength for defending your position, because they give you a timeline as well. And in this timeline, the Germans will randomly attack your trenches every now and then, and if your forces aren't strong enough to survive, then it's game over. It's also game over if your morale drops to 0, which can be helped by relieving people from service. So you see, it's got some very interesting, engaging gameplay components here. And my favorite thing is when the Germans do attack or hit you with artillery or whatever, you actually get a little cutscene of the fighting. It's really cool, and it adds a whole other dimension to your gameplay as you actually get to see these soldiers who you just healed fighting to now defend you. I love that. It shows some real dedication and commitment from the developers. It wasn't something that most people would add in, as I've seen from several games like this, but they added it here, and I like that. I like that a lot. But now, that's all the pros that I have to talk about, and I gotta go into the negatives next, but before that, I would greatly appreciate it if you guys and girls out there would support the growth of my channel. Smaller channels like mine only grow if they get noticed, and the only way to get noticed is to keep chugging along, as well as having my content shared. So if you could please like, comment, subscribe, and share my content, it goes a long way to helping my channel grow, and it also costs you nothing, and helps me out a lot, so, you know, please consider helping me out. Thank you. Now then, on to the negatives. The first negative that really stuck out to me and irritated me was the price tag. Don't get me wrong, I understand the costs of development and paying voice actors and whatnot, but you also gotta be more realistic when you're assigning your prices. And $30 for this game, in my opinion, is just too much. Maybe $25 at most for this game, and I'll go further into why a bit later. For now though, the $30 price tag for this is just too much, and I just don't think it's worth that much. Now here's why, the next negative. It's the gameplay. Now don't get me wrong, the overall idea here is solid, but the execution could use a little bit of work. Remember how I said there was a small problem with the sound effects? Well, when I said that, I was talking about the combat cutscenes. The sound effects for the battles and whatnot is kind of embarrassing. It goes from legit decent sound effects of stuff happening in the base, of like the gritty, like, oh, we got radios going off and there's people screaming because they're going through surgery and people are tired and eating and there's just all this stuff going on and it's so traumatic, and then you get this.
Sir, we have wounded soldier.
Now don't get me wrong, it's not the worst I've ever heard, but its quality just doesn't match with the rest of the quality of the game, so it sticks out like a sore thumb, so you notice it more and makes it sound worse than it probably really is. That might be my problem. Another thing with the gameplay that's kind of annoying is the lack of stuff to do. Once you assign people to do their jobs, even with the speed up button, it takes forever for anything to happen. So you'll spend more of your time just sitting around waiting for stuff to happen, just so you can then make a 2-second decision followed by another 2-second decision on what to wait on next before you're then waiting for 2 minutes for that stuff to finish. Like, it's got an interesting game loop, but you spend most of your time sitting around waiting for stuff to happen, which is boring, and it adds up to being more boring than more engaging. Not only that, but as much as I like the cutscenes of combat, I feel like it could have been done better. I would have much preferred to see if if you could actually see combat happening in real time at the trenches with these graphics, with these sound effects, in these prolonged battles where you're watching people being carted off to the field with guns and bombs booming around them. It'd make it feel more realistic and threatening if the battle was happening and you still had to keep healing people and sending them out there. But instead you get a quick 5-second cutscene and then it's over, now back to work. You know, war doesn't really work that way. You know, it's normally all this is happening at the same time. And unfortunately, that's not all I have either. There's this really annoying function with the gameplay where your personnel don't naturally take breaks. They literally work until they collapse and then they're out forever. Which doesn't make any sense to me at all. I can't even set it up for them to take breaks. So basically, the game wants you to babysit all your personnel and make sure that they're actively taking breaks. In the beginning, it's not too hard because, you know, you've only got so many people, but as the game progresses and you find yourself with half a dozen nurses, surgeons, engineers, scouts, trauma doctors, physicians, and at a certain point, it's just way too much. And it's not streamlined. The next negative I want to talk about is the tutorial and the tooltips. Now, the tutorial isn't that bad, but it didn't teach me everything. I spent 2 hours on the game, and the tutorial ended an hour ago, but I still don't know much about some of the stuff here. I don't know what this does, or what this does, or what the consequences of that are. And the tooltip bubbles only pop up on like half of the things on the screen, so the other half I'm just left guessing. I'm wondering what they are, or what they mean, and I hate it when games do that. Hell, I have no idea what my overall military power strength is. They say sending troops to the front line increases your power, but where's the gauge for that? Where's the number for that? I can't find it anywhere, so I have no idea if I should even be sending troops to the front line right now. It says I've got a strong chance at victory. Great. Is that my power indicator? If so, why wasn't that explained? Why wasn't that pointed out to me? And, you know, there's other stuff like that everywhere. Last but not least for the negatives is the stability of the game. Now, it's not like game breaking, it's not like crashing on me, but as I was playing this fully released game, I was running into frame rate drops, clipping stuck personnel, and some units refusing to go back to their assigned task after I had to pull them off to do something else more urgent. So it's still got plenty of bugs and glitches that need ironing out. I mean, like I said, so far, nothing too bad. It's not game-breaking at least, but it still gets very annoying as you play longer and encounter more and more. So, you know, I hope a patch comes out soon to fix some of these bugs. So, that's the good and the bad I got to say about this game. And when you take into account the fact that there's very little replayability to a game like this, and since, you know, because there's no real choices or decisions to make, it's kind of hard for me to say that this is a really good game or a great game, along with everything else I stated, of course. Overall, I think it's an average game. It's not great, but it's not terrible, and that's why I'm not sure it deserves $30. I mean, it's buggy, it's glitchy, it's got a lot of look and feel, but not a lot of engagement. It's got a lot of immersion, but not a lot of activity. For every good thing going for it, it also has something bad to negate that good thing. So yeah, basically it's just an average game. Is it interesting and new? Sure. And if you're really interested in this idea, then yeah, pick it up. You won't be disappointed. But my overall recommendation would definitely be to wait for a discount before you pick this game up. You know, if you like simulators, should you try it out? You know, yeah, it's not bad. Just wait for that discount first. And don't expect it to be something amazing or game-breaking. All right, everybody? Alright, that's all the time I got for this video, everyone. Thanks so much for watching, and special thanks to those who made it to the end. If you have any questions or concerns, please let me know in the comments down below. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I can't wait to see you all again on my next adventure. So until then, I bid you all farewell.